For 18 days, America listened to a man die. Not in a hospital, not in a war, but trapped, 55 feet underground, inside a hole so tight he couldn't even turn his body. Every breath scraped his chest, every movement made it worse. And the most disturbing part, thousands of people stood above him, eating, watching, waiting, as he slowly disappeared into the earth. His name was Floyd Collins, and what happened inside that cave should have never been seen as entertainment. Before we go deeper, if this story pulls you in, let me know down in the comments. Now, let's step into the darkness. In the early 1920s, America was gripped by what newspapers later called the Cave Wars, a strange gold rush where farmers and explorers believed that discovering a new cave could turn them into overnight millionaires through tourism. Just like the famous Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, Floyd Collins, a highly experienced but financially struggling cave explorer, was completely consumed by this dream. After several failed attempts with other caves that didn't attract visitors, he partnered with a local landowner and began exploring a place called Sand Cave on January 30th, 1925, hoping this would finally be his breakthrough. Armed with nothing but a lantern and his determination, Floyd crawled deeper than anyone had before, passing through tight, jagged rock formations until he reached a narrow, brutal passage later described as a 9-inch squeeze hole, barely wider than a human body, forcing himself through it inch by inch, his chest scraping against stone and his breath shortening with every movement. He finally discovered what he believed was the Crystal Chamber, a hidden section he was convinced could be turned into a tourist attraction. But the moment he decided to turn back, everything changed. As he carefully tried to retreat through the same tight passage, his lantern suddenly failed, plunging him into absolute darkness. Disoriented and struggling to reposition himself in the cramped space, a loose 27-kilogram rock suddenly shifted from above and crashed down onto his leg, pinning it firmly against the cave floor. The rock didn't break his leg, but it trapped him in a way that made movement almost impossible. Floyd was now stuck 55 feet underground. His body twisted at an unnatural angle, partially upside down in a passage so tight he couldn't even turn around, with cold water slowly dripping from the cave ceiling onto his face, water that would become his only source of survival as hours turned into days. Above ground, when Floyd didn't return, his brother Homer grew worried and eventually located the cave entrance, calling out into the darkness until he heard Floyd's faint voice echoing back. But despite knowing exactly where he was, reaching him was a completely different challenge. What should have been a desperate rescue operation quickly transformed into something far more disturbing, a full-blown media spectacle. Within days, more than 10,000 people gathered around the cave site, turning it into something resembling a fairground, with food vendors, photographers, and curious onlookers treating the tragedy like live entertainment, while Floyd lay trapped beneath them, slowly weakening in the cold, damp darkness. One of the most significant moments came when a reporter named Skeets Miller managed to squeeze through the same deadly passage and reach Floyd, becoming the last person to speak to him directly. Their conversations were relayed to the outside world, turning Floyd into a national story and one of the first real-time media sensations in American history. Rescuers attempted multiple strategies to save him, including attaching ropes and pulley systems to pull him out. But the moment they applied pressure, Floyd screamed in agony, warning them that his body was wedged so tightly that pulling him could literally tear him apart. Meanwhile, engineers and miners began digging an entirely new vertical shaft to reach him from above. But the operation was slow, dangerous, and complicated by the unstable nature of the cave. Then, disaster struck again. The constant digging, vibrations, and the sheer weight of thousands of people gathered above caused sections of the cave to become unstable, leading to a partial collapse that sealed off the narrow passage where Floyd was trapped, cutting off direct access to him completely. From that point on, rescuers could no longer see or communicate with him clearly, relying only on improvised methods like lowering wires to detect movement or breathing. For 18 days, they continued digging relentlessly, racing against time, exhaustion, and the fear that Floyd was already gone. But when they finally managed to reach his position, they discovered that he had died alone in the darkness days earlier. The small, seemingly insignificant mass of clay and stone that had fallen on his leg had effectively become an immovable prison, turning that narrow passage into a permanent tomb. And marking Floyd Collins, Death, as one of the most haunting and widely followed tragedies of its Besenwansest time, where a man was desperate fight for survival, unfolded beneath the earth while the world watched from above. Unable to save him, Floyd Collins survived nearly 432 hours trapped underground, longer than most people thought possible. But here's what makes this story even darker. The rock that trapped him wasn't even solid stone. It was soft clay. So why couldn't anyone move it? And what happened to Floyd's body after his death is something many people still find disturbing. This wasn't just an accident. It was one of the first media frenzies in American history. If you want more stories where reality feels worse than horror, subscribe now, because some places you don't come back from.